So, brother, a couple of little technique things that we can go through with your squats, just letting you know that your lift is mainly good, but there's a couple of things that we can make you aware of that will make you be able to put a little bit more power throughout the bar by getting you into some safer positions structurally. So, learning what is the strongest positions for your anatomy to be in, so as that you can put the most power through the bar and so that you can be safest for the long run of your career as well. Just learning where the strong positions are with your body, things like having your knees out when you're at the bottom of the squat versus having your knees facing inwards. And I'll just go through it all with you now and talk you through it. So really, we don't really have any tips for as you're coming down in the squat, but we have tips once we start getting to the bottom. First thing I'd like to say is that your depth in these lifts is really, really good. I'm just going to pause it there. Your depth in these lifts is really good, but we could do it to being about 1 inch deeper if we want to try and express the most range that you should really get out there. That extra inch is probably going to make it way harder when you're at the bottom. It's usually what we call getting into the hole, and it's the hardest part of the squat because, well, it's just where leverage is working against you the most. But yeah, about 1 inch deeper, that'd be good. One thing that I want you to be aware of, but isn't necessarily a problem that you've got going on right now, is where your knees are when you're in the bottom of the squat. So if you have a look at right now from your ankle to your knee, it's pretty much directly straight up, which is awesome. The weakest position for those knees to go in is when the knees start coming inwards of that line. Even if it's only a little bit, you want to make sure that kind of shit never happens. If your knees come inwards, it's going to put pressure on your MCL, like the ligaments that are on the inside of your knee. And it might not bother you today, but it's one of those things where if you repeat it, 100 times, 1,000 times over the years, it's not going to be good. The other thing is that if your knees come inwards when you're exerting the effort at the bottom of the squat, it means that your glute medialis, which is part of your glutes, like part of your butt muscles, is not strong enough for the weights that your quads are able to push. So sometimes people get into a position where they're squatting weights where their legs themselves can handle it fine, but the glutes, which are the main supports for the legs, can't handle it. And if that kind of thing happens, we need to address it. So yeah, try and go for about 1 inch more depth. Consciously push those knees out all the time. If they're a little bit further out, if your knee is in line with your middle to little toe, that is pretty optimal. If your knee is going from the big toe and buckling inwards a little bit, then you want to try and fix that and push it out there a little bit more. The other thing is your head position. So right now you're looking straight forward, which is pretty fine, honestly. It's not like it's a terrible thing, but the thing is that the spine tends to follow what the head does. The head's an extension of the spine. If you want the spine to be in its safest position, we want it to be straight, and that means that we want it to be straight all the way down. This is important for something in the future called bracing, which we'll go through. But for the moment, all you need to know is that we need to get your chin tucked in. So if you tuck your chin in, like you imagine that you've got an apple underneath it, what this will do for you is it'll make your squat look something like this clip that's coming up. If you have a look at my head, I'm looking downwards at a 45-degree angle here. This is keeping my chin tucked in, and then when I start coming down in the squat, once I get towards the bottom there, although you can only see the tip of my head, it's a straight line from the bottom of my back up to the top of my head. Here with an empty bar, you can see it better. When I'm down at the bottom of the squat, straight line from my back all the way up to the back of my head. So yeah, that is something you want to be aware of. The other thing that we want to try and be aware of is what position this actual squat rack is starting off in with you. I know it's on a Smith machine, so it goes straight up and down. The strongest position for you to be in, and the best one structurally, for your body, is going to be having that bar just in front of where your ankles are, so the mid-arch of your foot. You might already have it at this point, by the way. It's just that from that angle I can't tell too well. But we want to have that bar placed pretty much at the center where the arch of your foot is. That's usually just in front of people's ankles. And you want to try and work your form around that path. So if you have a little look here, when I start coming down in my squat right now, even though I'm not in a Smith machine, it's pretty much a straight line all the way down to all the way up. And yeah, so just sort your position when you get into the Smith machine and make sure that it's going to be in this line for yourself. The last thing I'd say technique-wise that you might want to bear in mind now that we're going to be changing your head position is that when you start pushing up from the squat, push your back into the bar itself. So imagine you're pushing your back into the ceiling. Don't just try and drive it up from your hips. Imagine that head's got to, the upper part of your back's got to get pushed into there as well. So it's going to drive that bar up towards the ceiling. Hips push up, upper back pushes back. And that's going to be something else that helps your hips come forward a little bit sooner as well, which is always good for the mechanics of the squat. So yeah, get those things bear in mind. Little things that'll happen if you don't have that bar in the right position all the time is it's just going to affect how it is that your body gets into a squat in the first place. If you have a little check in the middle clip here, this is an example of what's likely to happen if you have the bar too far over your heels. You'll probably have to get a much flatter back just to try and achieve squat depth, and it's probably not going to be too strong of a position for you, and it'll put a lot more stress on your back. And you've have a look at the picture on the far right. That's an example of like if the bar goes a little bit too far over your toes, your knees will have to go much further out to be able to get that depth, and usually that means that the knees are going to come inwards of the ankles as well. It means that usually the knees internally rotate, and it puts a lot more pressure at the front of the knee than what your structure is best capable of handling anyway. But if you have a look at that first picture, that's what it's going to be looking like if we have the bar just in front of your ankles or just across the center of your foot, where it should be a position that's real comfy for your body to get into. So yeah, just enjoy this few little technique tidbits here. Main things, just going over all that again, is 1 inch deeper in the squat, wanting to get the knees out, tucking that head in, making sure the bar of the Smith machine is in line with your ankles, and to push your upper back into the bar as you drive that bar up consciously. So yeah, enjoy there, brother. Peace out.